So what I want to do is introduce to you what we are doing in looking ahead to some work that is in our backlog. And as the product manager for Agile Hive and an SAFe program consultant trainer, based on my experience, I've been looking at the flow metrics. So let me just go through here. This was a prototype that the previous product manager built some time back. And so now as we're starting to get, some traction and some completion of some essential functionality in Agile Hive Cloud, we are starting to look forward to some more innovative things like flow metrics. So that was the original prototype. If you're not familiar, that in SAFe 6.0, these were 6 flow metrics that they pulled together under the new principle of making value flow efficiently. And so there are these 6 metrics. None of them are really new to the world. Most of them, like flow time, has been around, like feature cycle time for a while. But they pulled these together in honor of the flow framework defined by Mick Kirsten in his book, Project to Product. And they're all in one place and also associated with some flow accelerators. Today, I'm just going to show you some of our analysis of these flow metrics and what we are thinking of from a tooling point of view. So flow distribution, what you see at the bottom is the original prototype and then the picture from the SAFe article. But I wanted to analyze not just, we could look at flow distribution. I wanted to really think through, what are we doing? Who is it helping? How often are they using it? And I have previewed some of my flow scenarios with some customers and people that I've worked with for a very long time in my SAFe role. So why do we use flow distribution? What is it? It is really the representation of what is our distribution of the work across different time boxes. Most often it's used at the planning interval level at an Agile release train to look at how are we managing the work, the balance of percentage between things that are customer facing, things that we need to build an architectural foundation, or things that we need to, say, reduce technical debt. So here are the key elements. It will likely be different, your target percentages for each planning interval. And so who uses it? System architects to defend their enablers, product management to defend customer-facing features, release train engineers to represent maybe improvements in the processes gained from inspect and adapt and relentless improvement. So there's always this tension on how are we going to spend our capacity? What should we do? And it's normally done once per planning interval. And so what can we can give you this information. Can you tell from that chart whether this is useful? Is this appropriate? Is this what we want? Is there something we need to approve? So what we can do better in Agile Hive is for each planning interval, allow you to set a target for the percentages. You can plan to those. We can analyze what's in the backlog and show you not only when you're planning for the PI, but as you're executing on the PI and inspecting and adapting on the PI, were you on target for your targeted percentages? And then this graph of over time is still useful, but in addition to looking at on a PI by PI basis, and even more useful, one of my key customers I work with will allow me to associate these targeted percentages to strategic themes. I'm teaching and implementing SAFe class at Cybert, and just today we were talking about strategic themes and OKRs and how that should be reflected in the work. So this is what we're looking at to make this more useful for you as part of Agile Hive. So flow predictability, this has been around since day one of SAFe, and people use it. I would say one of the most poignant coaching points that I have to help people with is the effective use of PI objectives and achieving predictability. So we can show you this chart. We already have in Agile Hive Data Center a representation of the predictability within a PI, within a team for the business value planned and achieved. And I've been working with Daniel on the design for he'll talk about what's up and coming on the reports in Agile Hive Cloud and how we want to represent this. So yeah, we can show you this picture. What can we do better? What I do with every customer that I coach on SAFe is let's give them more guidance on writing effective PI objectives and using predictability effectively. Because if without that, seeing this chart may not really do them any good. And so the other thing that I've talked to customers about is maybe a more advanced capability, but if we could annotate our charts and export them so that, for instance, in this chart where in PI2, Team A had a very low percentage business value achieved, so what? We still have to dig deeper. What caused that? Are we addressing that? And so some form of annotation would be helpful. Moving on to a chart that I always use to talk about the value of predictability. Predictability lowers cost. That's what's motivating you to care about that metric. When teams own a plan, that leads to commitment. The commitment leads to delivery, which leads to predictability. That builds trust. And trust, whether it's in the business environment or your personal life, it lowers cost. Why? Because it circumvents or removes the desire to have a lot of micromanagement. And so those are the kinds of coaching points that I use on predictability. Moving on to our third of 6, flow velocity. This historical velocity, again, has been around since probably Scrum started. Let's talk about our velocity over the last 5 sprints. And Agile Hive DC and the up-and-coming charts in Agile Hive Cloud will show us the average velocity over previous time boxes. And how do we use that? Well, it's a sanity check on the committed work of the art for a planning interval or a team for iterations. It can also, when we have a trend over time, like these sample charts show us, it can indicate whether we've had some improvement or degradation in our ability to deliver. Who uses this? Scrum Master, Agile Coach on the team, RTE on the art. What is important, though, is it just says, the chart itself says, ooh, are we doing well? Or is there something we need to look into? Right? If we're doing well, that's great. More often than not, what we need the ability to look into the underlying causes. So again, if we provide ability to annotate and the information in our single source of truth of Agile Hive, this helps us move forward in improving our ability to deliver more. Flow time has been around forever as well, like feature cycle time. And so are we delivering value in the shortest possible time? The shorter the flow time, the less time our customers are spending waiting for new features. When we talk about cost of delay with weighted shortest job first as a prioritization, when we talk about small batch sizes of delivering value in small increments, which Daniel will show you on our art and team reports, we want to look at how often are we getting value to the customer. And most often this look like the average flow time of features within a planning interval, it inspires us to look deeper. For instance, you see some on that chart, that example chart from SAFE on the bottom, you see some outliers. Well, okay, great, we have outliers. That doesn't help us improve until we dig deep into what caused those features to be outliers. Were they too large? So we need to reduce the batch size. Were there impediments that caused them to be delayed, etc.? So what we can do better, and this is the heart of what I've gotten to in my analysis, is we need more detail on impediments and the analysis of the impediments. For example, the outliers in our flow time graph. Now, flow efficiency. This is the one that I really honed in on. This is the one I had an epiphany about. Because I looked at this flow efficiency, there's a detailed chart. You can see this at the bottom in SAFE. And the strong implication in SAFE and the related Pop and Dick book around value stream analysis says, oh, you need to separate out your work states and your wait states. And I said, oh, gosh, I have never had an easy time ensuring that people actually move the work through the workflow, even when I didn't have wait and work states. So are we going to assume there's a wait state associated with every work state? And are we going to rely on people to move things through the system? The other customers I've talked to about this, they said, no, you are right. People will not do this. This will not be useful to us. Ain't gonna do it. And so I thought, what could we do differently to achieve the same goal, which our ultimate goal is to figure out where are our impediments so that we can improve. And what we can do, and what I've talked to Daniel about in analysis of this, is what if we focus on impediments? I can go into that deeper with you outside of this time box. Let me first go through the last metric, flow load, because I find this one the least useful. If you can correct my thinking on that, I would love to talk to you about it. But this is also a chart that looks at how many items do we have in each state of the workflow at a given point in time. So this is a healthy looking cumulative flow diagram. The one on the left, I can't really discern what's going on there, but I have used a cumulative flow diagram to look across an entire system in an organization to see if there's systemic problems. But honestly, this one also depends heavily on people reliably moving the work through the states at the appropriate times. So the one thing I want to do here is confirm whether and how customers will use this. The customers that I have talked to have given me different responses, but primarily have said, don't make this your first priority. So what if I started thinking about all of these together? What do we really need to improve flow? Well, first of all, those metrics might tell us your flow is great. You don't have any problems. Okay, but does anybody ever have the perfect system? No. So what we really want to know is, as the work is progressing through the system, what are the impediments that are slowing down the flow? What are the categories and kinds of impediments? You know, SAFE has a great list of flow accelerators, and those we can use as the start of our categories of impediments, like too many handoffs and delays in handoffs, or people not having enough time without disruption. But then there's just the general one, like address bottlenecks. What are our bottlenecks? Can we categorize this? How long? What's the impact of those bottlenecks? How long is waiting on procurement? Really, how is that impacting us? So we have to be able to look deeper at the impediments. And that's the key message here. I have 12 different scenarios. I can review with you under a non-disclosure where we'll go into the steps that we are looking at for the usage model in detail. I build online calculators. And so I built this. It's an online calculator, but what it does is it allows us to together assess these different flow scenarios and give them a rating so that it will help us in development to prioritize those. And we'll take your additional notes, like some of these great things Mark has mentioned in this presentation. So all of that just to whet your appetite on what we're thinking, what we're doing, and ask you if you would be willing to discuss further under a non-disclosure agreement, because we got some secret sauce going on here and we don't want our competitors to beat us to the punch, but we want to collaborate with you as our key customer. So with all of that, Daniel and Jamal, I'm going to hand it back to you.